I've been traveling for more than 30 years, but in 2005, I took a trip that really changed everything. Everything about the way that I plan my trips, everything about the choices I make when I travel. Hi guys, I'm Lily. Welcome to my channel, Tourism Lens. I talk about how you can travel sustainably, meaningfully. Today I want to tell you the story about how I used to travel. I was pretty much like everybody else. I just wanted to go on vacation, relax, book a fancy hotel or whatever I could afford at the time, go and have fun. It's true that I did care about cultural activities. I've always been drawn into being immersed, learning about other cultures. And then in 2005, I took a trip to St. Lucia in the Caribbean. And like most people who go to the Caribbean, I looked for an all-inclusive resort. I didn't know anything about the Caribbean. It was my first time going there, and I was gonna go on my first true adult solo vacation. Had, disposable income. I was an attorney. If you watched the previous video, you know that already. And I had like 3 weeks of vacation accumulated. And I remember that HR had sent me a note saying, hey, you've got these 3 weeks unused, and if you don't use them, you're gonna lose them. And so that wasn't gonna happen. So I booked a trip. I looked at several different islands. I thought, never been to the Caribbean. It looks gorgeous. I picked St. Lucia. Flew to St. Lucia, booked an all-inclusive that had a massage or spa treatment. A spa treatment included in the rate. So you got one spa treatment every single day of your stay included in the rate. And I thought, wow, that sounds incredible. So I booked it. It turned out it was also a little bit of an unusual resort because they had a lot of singles that also stayed there, not just couples and families. So they have special price for a single person vacationing at the resort. I picked a beautiful suite, beachfront, and I'll never forget the day that I woke up. When I arrived at night, so I couldn't see much, but the next day I opened the double doors to my balcony and I saw the pitons, the St. Lucia pitons, and I mean, I've never seen anything so beautiful. And I was so stunned at how pretty and the water was, and I was just blown away. Anyway, I stayed at the resort for I want to say almost 2 weeks. Like, imagine, I spent 2 weeks there. But during the stay, I realized that I could go off resort and go on other excursions to nearby islands to get to know them better. I signed up for a day trip. I stumbled on a day trip to Martinique, to the capital of Martinique, Fort-de-France. And I was like, wow, that sounds interesting. Went there, spent the day, and it was so enriching. I mean, I can't even tell you, it was so fun. It was a bustling capital, really interesting architecture. Martinique is obviously a territory of France, but it also has a very strong Caribbean flavor, and that was visible everywhere I went in Fort-de-France, freely walking around. People were super friendly, but, I didn't feel unsafe. And remember, it was my first time in the Caribbean, and I was a pretty well-traveled person, so I liked stepping out like that. It was great, and then I went back the same day, back to my resort late at night. I did it again. I went to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, this time sailing the Grenadines. But the Martinique experience kind of really plunged me outside of the resort world, because for the first few days at the resort, I made friends. There were a lot of other singles traveling solo of my age. We did stuff together there. There were a lot of fun, it's entertainment, how all-inclusives are, but, met staff and all that. But at some point I started feeling like, well, I really haven't seen much of St. Lucia, other than like the pitons and the water. Catamaran snorkeling and all of that was fun. But I wanted to see more of the country, and I wasn't. Stepping out, going to Martinique, and being immersed in the local population. The capital is not necessarily a touristy destination either, so that really opened up my eyes as well. And I thought, wow, there's this side of the Caribbean that I don't know, but I want to get closer to it. So I went home after 2.5 weeks, almost 3, and thought I want to go back to the Caribbean. This time I wanted to go to Jamaica. when I told friends in the States that I was going to go to Jamaica, I would say over 50% of them said, "Are you insane? You're not going by yourself. Like, you can't go by yourself. It's not safe. Oh, the men are so aggressive." And I was like, look, I've always wanted to go to Jamaica. I'm very interested in, like, you know, the Rastafarian side of Jamaica and how they came to really, like, love and worship the Ethiopian emperor and everything that is Ethiopia. So I was determined to go, but I spent a lot of time researching. I knew from my previous experience in St. Lucia that I didn't want to be walled off, that I really wanted to know the real Jamaica, or at least a bit of it during my stay. It was going to be 2 weeks, and I was going to spend it in Negril. I settled on Negril. I wanted to stay at a smaller property that was more like a boutique size, and I wanted to make sure that it was, you know, locally owned, because I knew that having that close contact with the culture would give me a better experience. This is like the first domino effect, right? From my stay in all-inclusive in St. Lucia to now wanting to stay at a boutique hotel in Jamaica. And I did a week on the cliffs, a week on the beachside. Both of them were boutique-sized hotels. The first hotel, I wasn't sure, but it looked interesting online. It was family-owned, Jamaican-owned, and so I decided to call. And back in the day, remember, we used to call places. So I called this hotel, and by email as well. And they were so responsive. They were very responsive. They reassured me without even me saying anything about being worried. And yeah, they confirmed my booking. I mean, it just had this vibe of like being welcoming. And I was like, okay, I'm going there. Go to Negril. I spent a week at that family-owned Jamaican hotel. And let me tell you, it was such an eye-opening experience, because I really got close to the things that make Jamaica. All of the staff were Jamaican, including the managers. Everyone was Jamaican. They really took you in and took you to places that they went to hang out, that they went to eat. They would recommend places you could go. It was very easy to walk out and to immerse in the neighborhood, or to catch a ride and go, by the beach or go to another restaurant. I mean, it was just like the activities were incredible. It was easy to book from the hotel to go with, the Jamaican-owned tour operators. It was incredible. And I thought, this is how I want to travel. I've always loved culture, so that wasn't new for me. But the fact that I had picked a hotel that was locally owned and operated, locally managed, and was embedded in the community, and was a hotel ownership that was very involved as well in the community and in bettering tourism in the area, I was like, this is great. In fact, I still have some of the staff from that back then on my social media. They were just wonderful people, and I wanted more of that. And it started to really make me think about how I book my trips. So Jamaica was 2007. And from then on, I became lured by wanting to be in the Caribbean long term and wanting to make do my stories from there. And that's how I told you, right, in the previous video, I quit my law job, and when I thought about where I could go to kind of recharge, teach myself photography, and see what happens, I went back to Jamaica. Now, once I started doing that, and I started traveling very slow and being a storyteller and documenting and taking photos and engaging with residents, locals every day, hearing the stories that you don't hear in your hotel, that you're not going to hear in your all-inclusive, about how life really is in that place in Jamaica, really makes you stop and start to think about your role in all of this as a foreigner, as someone who's visiting, as someone who's privileged and has, a blue passport. And I really started to think about what it is that I'm sharing with others about the places that I'm visiting, and what role do I play in this whole dynamic that is the tourism industry. A lot of people think of tourism as like, oh, it's vacation and I just want like an affordable hotel or something that fits my budget. I want to have a great time. I want to relax. I don't care about anything else. It's true, vacations are for relaxing, but I think that it's important to recognize that how you vacation, where you book, and what you do when you're there can really have either a terrible effect on the place and the people there or a really positive one. And I wanted to be in the positive lane because I had lived it. I lived it when I was at that small hotel in Jamaica. I had a much better time. I had a fantastic time. I think it's still one of my best vacations ever. And so I think back to that, and I think that there's a message that's lost when we talk about sustainability. A lot of people think, oh, boring, not true, don't believe it. But it's real. These are real people's lives that are impacted by tourism. And the choices that we make when we travel make a difference, a huge difference. It's no different than like food, the food industry. Like now we have so much more information, right? About what's organic, what's not organic, why we should go for organic, why we should buy from our local farmers, why we should go to the farmers markets. It's no different with travel. It really isn't. There's a ton of information out there, and I'm going to share it on my channel as well. There are a lot of things you need to know about the travel industry. As someone who books trips, travels, whether it's for work, whether you're a content creator, whatever, right? Whether you're on vacation with your kids, there are ways to make your travels so much more meaningful and at the same time so much more positive for the places and the people that you get to meet. It's just like any other industry. So that was a trip that really changed everything for me. That trip is what changed my mindset. In the next video, I'm going to share some hard facts, stats about the travel industry that I think you should know about, that I think the average traveler probably doesn't even realize. So stay tuned for that video. Thank you so much for being here. Like, subscribe, I really appreciate that. And I'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.